presenting competition in the first round between Kenny Bernstein and John Force, with Bernstein having the choice of lanes. Ed McCulloch races against Bruce Larson. McCulloch will be able to select the lane of his choice. Don Prudhomme, the super quick one thus far in time trials against Mike Dunn. Prudhomme choosing the lane. And starting off the first round action, it is Tom Hoover against the defending champion, Mark Oswald. Oswald gets to pick the lanes. The engine coming to life in the Ford Pro-bodied car of Mark Oswald. There is some 4,000 horsepower shaking between the frame rails of both of these cars as Tom Hoover rolls into a puddle of water, ready to do his burnout. As I told you earlier, Hoover's competition, that's Mark Oswald, the defending champion, had the opportunity to select the lane. He picked the lane on this quarter-mile racetrack nearest our cameras. That lane selection, while at this moment at the start of eliminations may not be that important, could be a critical factor later on. The selection process is determined by qualifying position. And throughout 18 races conducted over the past 12 months, Mark Oswald earned more points based on his qualifying position at those events. Thus, he came into this $50,000 Big Bud Shootout ahead of Tom Hoover. That gave him the right to select the lane. In the next two rounds of competition this afternoon, the driver with the quicker elapsed time from the previous round will have the opportunity to pick the lane. Leonard Hughes, the crew chief on Mark Oswald's car, taking a final check inside the vehicle. Oswald qualified number 4 with 2,425 points. Tom Hoover qualified in the number 8 spot. 1,935 points earned over an entire season of qualifying effort. The structure of NHRA Championship drag racing finds the number 4 qualifier racing number 8. One runs 5, 2 against 6, and 3 against 7. Mark Oswald easily outdistances Tom Hoover, a 5:33 and 272-mile-an-hour winning run. That moves Mark Oswald into the semifinals. Back at the starting line, the man they all fear at this point, Don Prudhomme, bringing the engine to life in his race car. Already a 5.26-second elapsed time under the direction of that man. That's Mike Clover, the crew chief, and take a look. One of our onboard cameras mounted high atop the rear spoiler on the Pontiac funny car of Don Prudhomme. You'll be riding with him down the quarter-mile racetrack as he squares off against Mike Dunn. Dunn completing his burnout as we ride along with Prudhomme as he heats up those huge 17-inch wide tires, getting them as hot as possible to provide as much traction as they can. Let's go down now to the far end of the racetrack where Steve Evans is with Mark Oswald. Steve?
You're the first to try the track. Your impressions?
Oh, it's excellent. Best it's ever been. You know, we looked at it this morning. We were up taking pictures, and we knew it would be.
Good job.
Thank you.
Well, according to Oswald, lane choice may not be a critical factor in this $50,000 shootout. But right now, you can bet both of these men, Dunn and Prudhomme, are concerned with recording the quickest elapsed time they can. Dunn came into this race in the number 7 spot with 2,000 points to his credit. Qualified number 3, Don Prudhomme, 2,430 points. This will be the last appearance in a Big Bud Shootout by Don Prudhomme, as next season he has already announced his plans to switch to a top-fuel dragster. Mike Dunn has said, I'm going to stay right where I am, driving a funny car. He's had great success at it this year. He has won 2 NHRA Winston National Event titles, taking home the Southern Nationals event in Atlanta, Georgia, the Cajun Nationals in Baton Rouge. You're riding along with Don Prudhomme. You'll get a chance to see just what it's like. Prudhomme thunders down the quarter mile with the quickest elapsed time ever here at Indianapolis Raceway Park. 5.17 seconds. His speed over 272 miles an hour here at the Big Bud Shootout. Raceway Park in the Big Bud Shootout, thrilled with the 5:17 they've just seen. Let's go to Steve Evans and talk with the man that did it, Don Prudhomme.
You know, you couldn't design a day better than this to race a funny car.
It sure was, you know, and we're pulling up the start line. I thought maybe we ought to do this or that, but we just left it alone from yesterday, and the air is great today, so I'm really tickled.
Congratulations, man.
Thanks.
Whoa, what a shot.
What a shot is right, Steve. And Don Prudhomme served notice on the other drivers in this Big Bud Shootout that he wants that $50,000. Here's the man that qualified in the #1 spot, the best funny car qualifier throughout an entire season of racing. This is Ed McCulloch. When it comes to winning races, his competition, Bruce Larson, has proved to be superlative. 4 big wins thus far this season. Larson qualified #5 with 2,405 points, while Ed McCulloch held down the pole position at 2,580. Both of these drivers sit inside that tubular chassis that is encased in an Oldsmobile body. There's some 4,000 horsepower available to these drivers, generated by those supercharged nitro-burning race engines. And McCulloch goes up in smoke. He overpowered the racetrack, and Larson moves into round #2. What a disappointment it has to be for McCulloch. He worked all season long to remain the #1 qualifier, only to go out in the first round with the loss of traction. Back at the starting line, our next pair getting ready to start the engines. The man with the hat is the crew chief for John Force. That is Austin Coyle, making sure all is well with the engine and it's running properly before they lower the fiberglass body over Force and our onboard camera. That's the view John Force gets of this beautiful Indianapolis Raceway Park facility and the huge crowd that lines both sides of this quarter-mile racing surface. Force heads to the water box to begin his burnout procedures as his competition, Kenny Bernstein, also does the same. This is the last Big Bud Shootout for the 2-time champion Bernstein. He won it in 1983 and 1985, and next season, you'll find Kenny Bernstein behind the wheel of a Top Fuel Racer. But not so for John Force. He'll be sitting right where you see him, guiding that Oldsmobile-bodied funny car. Let's go down to the far end of the racetrack again, and Steve Evans has the opportunity to talk to Bruce Larson.
You saw the snake run 5:17.
Wow, I sure did. Yeah,
You have a terrific elapsed time, too, at 5:28.
that's great. We're back to for Thursday's performance, and we went back to that combination, and it responded.
Tell me about the run itself. Smooth?
Very smooth. Yeah, it felt real good. I think the computer tape's going to look like it's conservative.
Great job.
Thanks a lot, Steve.
Bruce Larson referring to the time trial activity that took place earlier this week here at Indianapolis Raceway Park, getting ready for this $50,000 Big Bud Shootout. Dale Armstrong, as he's done so often, directing Kenny Bernstein, the #2 qualifier at this event. He had a total of 2,560 points. John Force qualified in the #6 spot with a total of 2,340. Inside John Force's car, you see the body being lifted up. Austin Coyle reaches in, takes a wire off the ignition system that arms the second magneto on that race engine. They use 2 of them, a total of 16 spark plugs in each one of these race motors. Some of the crews, such as John Force and Austin Coyle, decide not to fire that second magneto until the burnout procedure is completed in an effort to cut down on engine problems. Quite a rivalry has developed between these two men over the years, and this will be the last opportunity they will have to race each other in the Big Bud Shootout competition. Boy, what a ride with John Force, the winner over Kenny Bernstein. John Force had a 5.38 second elapsed time at 273 miles an hour. And as we look again, you can see how critical a good start really is. John Force in the far lane got just a microscopic advantage over Kenny Bernstein off the starting line, and that's what won him this drag race. As they neared the halfway point, the 2 cars were basically side by side. That position continued to hold until the finish line, where John Force won it by just inches. Look at the time. 5:38 for Force. Bernstein losing with a 5:37. Force quicker off the starting line. Steve?
What a thrill as we all rode with John Forrest, thanks to the onboard camera, to a first-round victory, a 5:38. Nice going.
Hey, it's great. Anytime you can whip the king, man, you're right in the ball game. But from what I saw earlier, we ain't in the ball game at all with the snake, huh?
Was that something?
It was unbelievable. I mean, me and Coyle, we had to applaud him. I said, as embarrassing as this is, we got her. We look like fools.
Anything you'll do to this car, John? Leave it alone or what?
I have no idea what to run. What'd she run?
38.
38. Well, we're going to do something. The other guy ran a 28, but we're having fun and making money.
All right, John Forrest. He is having fun, and that's what it's all about, ultimately.
Steve, the irrepressible one, Forrest heads into the semifinals where he'll race the defending champion, Mark Oswald. Oswald getting to pick his lane of racing. Don Prudhomme, the quick one, goes against Bruce Larson. And obviously, Prudhomme will select the lane for the semifinal round of racing in the Big Mud Shootout. There's $50,000 going to the winner of this Elite 8 car field. We're down now to the final four. Mark Oswald, the defending champion, will be in the near lane of the racetrack. He's there by virtue of his quicker winning elapsed time in round number one. He had a 5:33, while his opponent, John Forrest, who won this title just a year before Oswald back in 1987, won with a 5:38. That 0.05 of a second difference put Oswald in the position of being able to select his lane. The racetrack itself looks to be impeccable. With the exception of Ed McCulloch, we've not seen any race car have problems negotiating the track or getting traction. The largest crowd ever to view a Big Mud Shootout competition on hand today at sprawling Indianapolis Raceway Park as Forrest and Oswald roll their cars into those light beams stretched across the starting line to get themselves in the proper position for starter Buster Couch to send them on their way. This is perhaps the most critical moment in the entire race as the drivers get ready to leave the starting line. You saw in the previous round how Forrest won with a slower elapsed time. And he does it again. He beats Mark Oswald off the starting line and gets to the finish line first. 5:37 at 276 miles an hour. As we look again in replay, you can see Forrest gain that ever so slight advantage at the starting line. His car moves just a fraction of a second ahead of Oswald's. Then as they went down the racetrack, he continued to keep pace with Oswald, who was trying to claw his way into the lead, but it was not to be. Forrest's lightning-quick reaction times off the starting line paid off the win over Oswald's quicker 5:36.
Well, John Forrest is always giving credit to his crew chief, Austin Coyle. Take a little yourself. Today, back-to-back, you have hole-shotted your way in the Big Mud Shootout.
I tell you, he was out the window. I was out, it smoothed around, he's out the window. And I'm thinking, God, I'm talking to myself, what is going on here? It's exciting. Where do we go from here?
You go to the final round.
Waiting to see Snake here. Like I told you earlier, I thought he went to top fuel already.
Come again. There's nothing else to say, as usual.
The whole shot, of course, the drag racing term for gaining an advantage over your competitor at the starting line. Now the last two cars in this semifinal round of Big Mud Shootout competition. It is Bruce Larson challenging Don Prudhomme. Larson, by virtue of the slower elapsed time, got put over in the far lane of the racetrack. Maynard Yanks, his crew, performing that task of arming the second magneto on that Oldsmobile-bodied funny car. But for Larson, racing in that lane should not be considered a negative. He has just watched John Forrest drive himself to victory and into the final rounds of this $50,000 shootout. And Larson is certainly considered every bit as quick a driver as is John Forrest. For Don Prudhomme, he hopes to capitalize on the elapsed time dominance he has shown throughout this event, capped by that incredible 5:17 win in the first round. And Bruce Larson red lights. Prudhomme down track. And engine problems for Prudhomme. A puff of smoke coming out of that car. The time showing a 5:28 elapsed time. His speed only 243 miles an hour, dropping nearly 30 miles an hour from the previous round. Prudhomme turns off the racetrack as Bruce Larson can only coast through and think about what could have been if he had not left too soon. Watch again in replay. You see Larson in the far lane moving long before the tree was ever activated. As And then Don Prudhomme gets the green light. Now let's watch as this engine problem develops for Don Prudhomme. You'll see Bruce Larson leave early. He's gone. Now look at the lower left-hand part of your picture. There was the telltale smoke that tipped us off that Don Prudhomme had an engine problem on that winning run that put him into the finals. Let's go to Steve and see if we can find out what happened.
Okay, well, we saw the fire out of the motor of Don Prudhomme, the resulting 5:28 elapsed time. Snake concerned with his hand. You all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. Right before we got ready to come up for the last round, found out we had a header problem. The flanges were broken. They tried to fix it and just stuck it together, and it didn't hold out. It was nothing but that. We lost a header on the right-hand side.
No major engine damage, you don't think?
I don't know yet. It don't look good right now, but I think we can get it back together.
We'll follow that story, Dave.
Steve, there's lots of work facing the Prudhomme crew to get that Pontiac ready for the final round race. Even though the car slowed considerably, Prudhomme still has lane choice over John Force in the finals of the Big Bud Shootout. There's $50,000 going to the winner of this single race down a quarter-mile drag strip. This is the final round of the Big Bud Shootout. You're riding with John Force in the midst of his burnout procedure as he takes on the quickest car thus far this day. That is Don Prudhomme. Prudhomme with a 5:17 in the first round. Serve notice that he is the car to beat. That's the Pontiac you see there in the near lane. For Force, he's been able to get to this point by his driving skills. First, he put away two-time champ Kenny Bernstein. Then in the second round, the defending champion Mark Oswald fell to the driving of John Force. And in both instances, the losing car had the quicker elapsed time. Here, he has to hope that those engine problems suffered by Prudhomme in the semifinals continue to plague him. Earlier, Steve visited both the pit area of John Force and the man he faces.
Don Prudhomme was on fire in the semifinal round, and here's the evidence. We couldn't see it because all that fire was inside the car when the exhaust headers came out, and all the fire was in the body instead of going out the pipes. Don, an awful lot of components have to be replaced on this car. Does it set you back in the battle against John Force?
Well, I don't think so. What really happened is the bolts that were holding the headers on, that all gave up, and the header fell down, and the fire came out and started burning the body, and just tore a lot of parts up. But we can get her fixed.
Even though the Prudhomme crew have many repairs to make, the atmosphere there is one of very calm precision. John Force's crew right here, well, they're thrashing and very intently, much like the man himself. How do you feel about this one? It's a big one for you.
Well, I'm trying to stay calm and relax, and it's been a while since I've been in a final, as you know, and the Bud Shootout, it's big money, but there's more than that here. It's my big showdown with the Snake. All these years I've waited to get him in a final. I just never got a shot, and with him going to Top Fuel, this just may be my last chance, Steve.
John Force has always said Don Prudhomme is his #1 idol in drag racing, and now here he is, racing against him in the finals of the Big Bud Shootout. And look at Prudhomme pull ahead. $50,000 going to the champion, Don Prudhomme. 5.19 seconds, 271 miles an hour. The losing time for Force, the quickest run of his day in a 5:34. But as you saw, that was a difference of multi-car lengths at the finish line. And as we look again, for the first time today, John Force was second off the starting line. But it really wouldn't have made any difference anyway, as John Force would have needed a whole shot of nearly 0.2 of a second to be able to keep pace with the flying Prudhomme. Have you ever wondered what it looks like to be on the losing end of such an awesome performance? Ride along in replay with John Force. And look at the left-hand side of your screen and watch the winner of the Big Bud Shootout. Steve?
You climax things with a 5:19.
I don't know what to say. We had a little trouble the round before, and, it just goes to show you what kind of crew I have. Mike Clover, all the guys, Dana, everybody did a great job.
Again, congratulations.
Thanks a lot. It's super.
Well, I haven't seen Don Prudhomme any happier since the last time he won the U.S. Nationals. Ron Winter from Budweiser in for a hug, and more importantly, somewhere on his person is that check.